clear, I'd like to apologize to Minister Farrakhan for misquoting him back in 2020. Period.
There you go.
No ifs, but, or anything else like that. Point blank, period. This is what I'm doing on your show.
What's up, everybody? This is the world famous Ed Lover, and you are watching Forgotten Kings TV. That's right, Forgotten Kings TV. Come on, son.
What's going on, world? It's your homie Sensei ripping them back again with another video. Listen, y'all. Moments ago, Willie D uploaded his interview with Vlad from VladTv. And of course, Vlad finally apologized to the Minister Farrakhan. That's right, y'all. As we all know, a couple of years ago, Vlad misquoted the minister. And after he was informed about his mistake, he refused to make a public apology. Okay, and that in itself caused several falling outs with some regular guests he had on his platform, right? We know Lord Jamar, Godfrey, of course, Willie D and others, right? Came together and said, you know, we're going to boycott Vlad and his platform until he, you know, rewrites his wrong, essentially. And here we are. A few years later, in 2025, we got Vlad finally apologizing. So what we're going to do today, we're going to check out Vlad and his apology, right? Of course, I'm going to give you my take. I'm also going to make sure I leave the link in the description so you can watch the full interview, right? This full clip in its entirety without my commentary. I notice a lot of people are like, yo, play the video. Listen, I got to, you know what I mean, set the table. I got to get everything right. You get what I mean? But let's get right into it. Let's hear Vlad give his take on, you know, his reasons as to why he refused to apologize after all of these years and now having a change of heart. Like I said, I appreciate each and every one of y'all tuning in. Make sure to like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. But yeah, let's get right to it. Let's check out Vlad and his reasons for why he refused to apologize after misquoting Minister Farrakhan. All right, let's get to it.
Farrakhan has done like a lot of good in our community, and he saved a whole lot of Black people. So when you refuse to apologize to Farrakhan, you know, I took offense to that. And I told you that, right?
Yeah.
On more than one occasion.
Yeah, no, we had multiple conversations on the phone about it.
Right, yeah. Right. And, you know, you made a statement that read at the time, you said, on Friday, VladTv posted an interview with D.L. Hughley where I referenced part of Farrakhan's speech about Jews. After our interview was released, I was made aware that there was a later part in Farrakhan's speech where he clarified those points. Based on that info, we removed that part of our interview, changed the title, and removed the social media post. Although I don't agree with some of Farrakhan's statements, VladTv has always reported on people accurately and will continue to do so. Mm-hmm. So where you stand today?
I've changed my stance about this.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why did you do that?
Well, at the time, I had some people around me who I thought had my best intentions, who I realized later on didn't and had their own agendas. And sometimes when you get into situations like this, you choose the people around you as opposed to the public, because the people around you are the people that you have to deal with every day and are closer to you. The public you could deal with. We all deal with public backlash and so forth. So at the time, I decided to go in that direction, even though it didn't really sit right on me. But over time, I got to see some of those people's true colors. And I started to really think of the moment that I was actually going to come forward and talk about it. And you being my actual friend and us talking about it for years and years, I felt that if I was going to do it, I was going to do it on this platform, because I've done dozens of interviews since then, right? And I've always said before my interviews, no Farrakhan questions. And everyone's always respected that, just like I respect people when they come to my platform to say the same thing. But I feel like at this time, especially with what's happening between Israel, you know, Jews and Muslims around the world, I don't feel that this stance of, both parties just kind of buckling down and saying that we're not going to see the other person's side and so forth hasn't done anybody any good. So I feel as a prominent person in hip hop who is Jewish, one of the, probably one of the small handful of people in hip hop who are Jewish and are openly Jewish about it. I felt that it was my duty to try to fix things, because ultimately, when you look at the relationship between the Nation of Islam and the Jewish community, it's never been good. And what does that accomplish for both parties? Nothing. Am I right?
Right.
So I felt that it was time to address it. And I told you for, a little while now that when I address it, I'm going to address it with you. And that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, you kept your word.
Yeah.
You kept your word.
Yeah.
How bad did it get out there? Because I can only, we didn't talk about it every single instance that came up that was a remnant of that action.
Mm-hmm.
So how bad did it get?
I think it personally got bad because some of the people that I was thinking, like in the same way that you and I had conversations, those conversations remain private, right?
Right.
I respect you, you respect me. And when we have these types of conversations and I open up to you and I say certain things about what's happening, I know that the next day you're not going to run to the internet and say, something Vlad told me in a personal phone call that he really feels this way and so forth. So I was talking to a number of people who I thought we had relationships. I thought they were my friends. I thought that we were, there's a level of trust and so forth, only to have those people turn around and start making videos the next day about these conversations. And these conversations weren't represented properly a lot of times. Things were twisted up. Things were changed and so forth to make me look bad and make the person look good. And that hurt. That hurt because some of these people had been in my home. I've extended myself to those people. I fed them. I helped promote them and so forth. And I thought there was a mutual respect. So I think that was the most hurtful part. The public is the public. We all deal with our, over time, I've dealt with this lots of times. The public being mad at me. And eventually they get over it and you go back to business. But some of those relationships that I no longer have, that I had at the time, and the way that those relationships fell apart, that's what really hurt the most.
Yeah.
And that's why I respected our relationship, because you said, listen, I don't agree with your stance and I'm not going to do your show for a while, but I would never go out and bash you publicly, which over the last 5 years, you never did. Even when you had people on the show that didn't agree with what I said, you didn't go overboard with letting them just kind of trash me on your show. So that to me was the most difficult part.
Yeah. I think, for me, that's the way that I rock, right? But here's the thing that, because I have a lot of reverence for Godfrey and for Lord Jamar. And so the way I operate is this, like when you hurt somebody, you don't get to dictate how they respond. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't know if you I know that you apologized, but I don't know if you really understand the depth of how people feel about Farrakhan. Like, he's not a regular dude. Mm-hmm. Like, I know he's a human being like us, and he bleed and breathe just like everybody else. Mm-hmm. He gets colds and, what I'm saying, his stomach hurts sometimes, right. Get food poisoning. I got all of that. But Farrakhan is so revered because he take the hits. Heavy is the head that wear the crown. Mm-hmm. And he has worn the crown for a long time. And his head has been heavy for a long time for wearing that crown. And, he's been misrepresented, misunderstood for a long, long, long time. What I want to know is, when Farrakhan does talk about Jews, oftentimes when he do talk about Jews, he talk about he speaks specifically. He don't put everybody in one bunch and say, this is all you guys. He talk about specific guys who did this, or did that, or did that.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to know is like, why is it that it seems to me like most of the Jewish community have an issue with Farrakhan speaking the truth? Because he don't lie. When he speaks things, when he talk about things, he speak on the truth. He just talk, this happened, this happened, this happened, this who did it, you know? And he do the same thing with black people. I've been on stage with Farrakhan, and he called people out sitting on the stage, including me.
Mm-hmm.
Like he just tell the truth. He just speak on, you know, what's righteous.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a problem with if I do something and somebody call it out or whatever. I really don't have a problem with that, because if I didn't want to have a problem with that, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a certain knee-jerk reaction when someone who's not of your immediate group talks about your group, right?
Okay, I hear that.
A black person can talk about other black people, but when a white person talks about black people, it's a problem.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, when you look at like the Breakfast Club, and it was the owner of the Eagles, I believe, was on the show and was saying, you know, he doesn't like how black people attack other black people like Meek Mill, and they call him gay and stuff like that. And there was a big backlash over that.
Yeah, I remember that guy.
Right.
Was he the owner of the?
Was the Eagles?
Was the Eagles? It was that guy that do the parties, right?
Yeah, right. That
him.
Guy. Yeah, I forgot. Maybe he's not the owner of the. He owns some sports team.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm misrepresenting him, because I'm just trying to, like, you know, address what you're saying. But he made comments about the black community.
Yeah.
And there was a huge backlash over it.
Right.
And he said that someone who I respect more than anyone else reached out to me and showed me the error of my ways and let me apologize. He was probably talking about Jay-Z.
Okay.
Which is what most people thought. But that's the thing. When people have a certain level of leeway of talking about their own group. I could talk about how I don't like how the Israeli government is handling the conflict with Hamas. I could say how it's too heavy-handed. I could say that I'm not a fan of Netanyahu and so forth. But I'm Jewish, and I could say that. A Muslim person or a black person saying that might get accused of being anti-Semitic. But it's the same statement from both people. But based on the person saying it, it's going to be taken a different type of way. So I think that's what happens. You know, when you have someone like a Farrakhan talking about the black community, everyone's cool with it. When he starts talking about other communities, then people have more of an issue with it.
Listen, y'all, I don't want to play the whole damn interview, but again, I notice a lot of y'all, y'all want me to play the video. I'm trying to be fair so y'all can hear Vlad state his reason, right? And also hear Willie D, you know, in his own way, try to follow up with some good questions. You get what I mean? Because I'm listening to Vlad's response, and, you know, I gotta be real with y'all, man. He doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. Let's just be honest. First off, you have a platform, okay, that is heard by thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. The fact that you are willing to offend, right, the majority of your demographic for your platform without understanding the reason, you know what I mean, empathizing. In this world, it's okay for the black community to empathize with everyone else's struggle. But when those take a stand, right, for our culture, black culture, the world refuses to understand our struggle. I'm not understanding that. You know, when you speak about the Holocaust, it's a must that you speak with respect, right, to those in the lives that were lost. At the end of the day, we get it. You know, you're human first. However, there's an effort, a pattern, if you will, of people who are willing to make money off of black culture, but are unwilling to learn why we become outraged when things are done against us or to us. Now, Vlad, you having a platform, again, that is heard by thousands, if not millions, okay, depending on the analytics, you have a responsibility to that audience. to display integrity. If I go on my platform and misquote something, it's my job to come back and inform the audience that I was wrong. But it's something about Vlad and his personality and the fact that whenever he doesn't get what he wants, he feels he has a right to attack people. He has this mentality that we're all familiar with, right? This privileged mentality where it's okay for you to, lash out at people because you didn't get what you wanted. We've seen this before with Marlon. We talked about how negotiations stays off of, these public platforms. That's behind closed doors. They had, I guess Vlad became upset because the number that he was given from Marlon's team wasn't the number he was looking for. What does Vlad do? He proceeds to shit on Marlon his whole career, try to belittle the man as if Marlon isn't part of the culture. And the culture responded. I mean, come on. Your reason as to why you're apologizing today, because back then you had people in your circle. See, there's no accountability. Now, who are these people who had a different agenda, Vlad? Come on. You got to be honest, man. That's the issue. People be giving you bullshit and you buy it. Now, for those who took a stand against Vlad, they had every right to. And for those who, decided to continue to go on the platform, listen, that's their right. But you got to understand, when you're in this culture and you're making so much money, try to have some level of awareness of the people you make money off of. I mean, come on now. It's that simple, right? The things that continue to happen to our people historically, that has happened to Black people in this country, it's amazing how people like to code switch. 1 minute they understand, the next they don't. There's been times when Vlad has interviewed rappers who had little to no credibility outside of being known for busting their gun. And here come Vlad. Days after the event, this man posts an interview of an artist. You don't even know the repercussions of this interview. This young man going on a platform, telling the events of what happened. At that point, he doesn't care. It's about the content. You get what I mean? And that's the point that people are trying to make with Vlad. In this opinion, some people say, you could argue this is too late. Maybe the numbers have influenced his sudden change of heart, right? And Willie D, shout out to him. Like I said, y'all make sure to hit the link in the description so y'all can watch the full clip. I'm going to fast forward through some of this so we can get to the official apology. Because again, like I said, man, Vlad doesn't get it. He's not the only one. It's a lot of people who make money from the culture, but don't understand the struggle and don't understand why we react to certain things. You come in, you make money, but then you think you can change the rules of how this thing works. People have a right to boycott any form of ignorance. You get what I'm saying? That goes against the progression of Black people in this country. And at the end of the day, when you're speaking on these stories, on our people, having them on the platform, you have to be mindful of the story. And that's the thing. No one wants to truly stand with us in the fight of everything. You get a little money, now you feeling like I'm not with them anymore. I can say and do what I want to do. And that's the problem. You know what I mean? But again, let's fast forward a little bit of this so y'all can see exactly the apology from Vlad. Give me 1 second.
Me and two friends.
Hold on.
Russian, and I just remember getting into a lot of fights during
we're gonna get it. We're gonna get it for y'all.
The jobs and
But yeah, man, this is interesting. I didn't think that Vlad would be on Willie D apologizing. Like I said, some people feel like he's doing this because of the platform and the numbers decreasing. So let's try to get to this. Hold on.
Well, man, having the capacity to apologize is not a weakness, it's an attribute.
Yeah. And let me be clear. I would like to apologize to Minister Farrakhan for misquoting him back in 2020. Period.
There you go.
No ifs, but, or anything else like that. Point blank, period. This is what I'm doing on your show.
Now that's honorable.
Thank you.
That's honorable.
And also, let me just say, this was not a decision based on pressure by anybody, by financial duress. It's not like I have to do this in order to turn the company around. The company's been doing fine all these years. It's not because I'm trying to get to a certain guest and by doing this and so forth. No, there's no reason behind this except for it's the right thing to do. And I'm fully aware that a lot of people are going to hear this and say, fuck your apology. It's too late. We're not going to accept it. Whatever. And that's fine, because this is not for those people. This is something that I felt I should do. And some people will accept it and some people won't. And I'm fully aware going into that, what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I cannot accept on anybody else's behalf but mine. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I accept, man, because I know it's sincere. And like you said, you didn't have to apologize. I mean, you're your own man, you're self-made. That's hard to get an apology out of a self-made person. It is very difficult to get an apology out of somebody who's loaded, who got paper, who's papered up, because oftentimes they got the attitude like, yeah, F the world, you know what I'm saying? I do what I want to do, and if it don't, there's no skin off my back, whatever, So I appreciate you, coming here and saying that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on what's going on in Ukraine?
All right, y'all. That was Vlad giving his apology finally on the Willie D podcast, man. Y'all make sure to watch the full episode. Like I said, I'll leave the link in the description. But y'all let me know, man. Do y'all think Vlad is being sincere in his apology? Me, I still don't think he understands. He doesn't get it. And at this point, because he has money, the mentality is he doesn't have to get it. You know what I mean? You want to save face. Now, according to Vlad, it's not because the numbers are declining, right? Now he's had a sudden change of heart. And as you can see, Willie D accepted his apology. Now, does that mean we'll see other people on this platform moving forward? I mean, I'm not sure. Like I said, this mentality of, how can I say this? People claiming victim, in certain situations that they create, right? In this case, Vlad feels as though, people around him is the reason why he didn't feel the need to apologize after misquoting the minister Farrakhan. And that's the part that just, to me, you don't fully accept accountability. You took a stand, you was on some bullshit, and you kept it moving because your ego had you feeling like, I don't need them. The same way you felt like you didn't need Marlon Wayans. You know what I mean? That platform, in your mind, it's the greatest that's ever been created. You know what I mean? You don't understand that in this space here of content creation, there are so many people who are now in the game, right? In the same way you feel as if you have a right to your, opinions and your reason for taking a stance, so does the people. Because again, it's obvious, it's clear that certain people who are the so-called gatekeepers of media, right, within Black culture, they don't fully understand the struggle. They don't know what it's like to survive in a system that constantly keeps its foot on the neck of a specific group of people in this country. You know what I mean? Now, granted, we all are limited based on our experiences, but me growing up in South Baltimore, being a 90s baby, witnessing, police, knockers, illegal things done to our people solely, specifically for the reason because of the color of their skin. You know what I mean? Me personally being affected by it, my peers, you know what I mean? The drugs. Look at the communities today. Look at how fentanyl has destroyed it, completely. This is after the crack era. You know what I mean? the needles, you know what I mean? The violence, all of the things was an environment that was created, a system that was created to create the mentality of the people we see out here today. You know, we're trying to survive. We're trying to make it. Everything isn't about a dollar. Everything isn't about the money. You know, we're trying to survive. And if you notice, there's a certain trend that's happening in all industries where people who are the founders and creators of these platforms that's generating billions, they're walking away rich while the creators are walking away broke. You know, and that's the thing. If you have the privilege of being able to make money in this space, the least you can do is have some respect. You know what I mean? Show some gratitude at the fact that if it wasn't for Black culture, many of us would not have a way to survive, including myself. So keep that in mind when you out here speaking on the elders, speaking on the OGs, speaking on our culture in general. I get it. This is entertainment, controversy sells, but it shouldn't be like this. It shouldn't, because I get it. We're human first, and the Black community has always been loyal to everyone else. Yet we constantly, receive disrespect. And then people want to act as if they're a victim, you know what I mean, to certain situations that they've created. You know, Vlad, your personality and your ego is why so many people have chosen to distance themselves from you. And then those who do sit down with you, it's business. Trust me, they ain't hanging out with you just cause. No, you got that money for them, you got that paper, people got bills to pay. And that's why they're here. You know what I mean? But you got to be, like I said, more mindful of the people you make money off of. It's the same situation with Leo Cohen. And Charlamagne asked him, you're profiting, you know what I'm saying, off of artists, right? While exposing them to certain vices that could ruin their career. What about the addiction? Isn't it your job to save the artists? And what'd he say? I got bills to pay, got a family to feed. So in the end, that lets you know that they don't empathize or have that compassion when it comes to the struggle. You know what I mean? And what we're up against still to this day. Look who's in the White House. We ain't got enough time for that. But the point is, here we are. We got an apology from Vlad. Again, do you think that he was sincere in his apology on Willie D's podcast? And what are your thoughts on Willie D revealing that, publicly he boycotted Vlad's platform? However, behind the scenes, he still remained friends with him, And I get it. This is a business and it's all about relationships. And some people, they can be very opportunistic. They have their own agenda and reason as to why, they'll have a relationship with individuals, right? And again, Willie D, if that's how you want to go about, his relationship with Vlad, that's their business. But the people who have already made a decision to boycott Vlad and platforms such as VladTv, the No Jumpers, it's a reason. It's a reason why. And you really got to understand it. You got to be part of it. You know what I mean? You got to understand exactly what it's like. And as you can see, certain people not only don't understand, but they're unwilling to understand. Because at the end of the day, the money is what keeps their ego intact. But the moment that money disappears, the moment that platform comes down, what are you going to be remembered for? Your actions, your character, and how you treat people. That's what it is. At the end of the day, your reputation is all you have in this world. And Vlad, you've created a big platform for yourself. But understand, hear me clearly, Vlad. Without the people, you are nothing. So remember that. Remember that. Please remember that. Don't ever try to front on the people, because without them, you are nothing. Now again, are you being genuine in your apology? I'll let the people decide with that. But again, shout out to Willie D. Like I said, this time last year, he got some criticism for his Cat Williams interview, right? Cat Williams, messing with him. People saying it was the worst interview. But since then, he has been consistently putting out content. I mean, and the algorithm, you know how it be. Sometimes it's in your favor, sometimes it's not. But, you know, despite all of that, Willie D has been consistently putting out content. So y'all make sure to tune in, watch it, check it out, because it's a lot of other amazing platforms on YouTube. You know what I mean? Channels to tap into. You know what I mean? And people put so much pressure on the Vlads and the no jumpers when we should just support those who are really out here, you know, displaying integrity and honor. You know what I mean? And actually giving you good game and knowledge. I get it. Entertainment is something that we use to get past through the day, but for the most part, it's dope content out here. You know what I mean? Like I said, I loved 2 Chainz with his son. I love that podcast. Right. Recently, I just seen the Jermaine Dupri podcast with well, not podcast. He was on Tank. Was that R&B Money podcast? It's a lot of dope content out here, man. You just got to do the work and you know, thoroughly do your homework, and you'll see it's a lot of dope content. And who else? My man from Boys to Men, he got a podcast. I mean, I'm just be sitting back behind the scenes, just soaking up so much game, because while everyone is, you know, fixated on the low hanging fruit, it's a lot of things that go over people's heads. So again, something like this, Vlad apologizing, you know, he should have had a change of heart much sooner, and maybe people will give him grace. You know what I mean? It's already rumored that because of the falling out with Godfrey and Lord Jamal, we may see, you know, them reunited on Vlad's platform. Again, that's all speculation. But like I said, man, this is where we are with the Vlad and his apology to the Minister Farrakhan. Again, if you're still tuning into this video, I appreciate each and every one of y'all locked in. For those who may not know, we have the weekly wrap-up show that drops every Thursday night around 11 p.m. So if you ain't up during the midnight hour, you know, the graveyard shift, you can catch it Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Get your weekly wrap up with me, my talented co-host Rome from the Melvin Ed podcast, and my man Banks. You know what I mean? Just giving y'all some real perspective on, you know, the trending topics throughout the week. And yeah, man, we're just going to continue to bless y'all with dope content. Again, I appreciate each and every one of y'all for just supporting me over the years. You know, we moving on to year number 5. And yeah, we not slowing down for the work whatsoever. So again, make sure to leave your thoughts and commentary on this issue involving Vlad and his apology to the Minister Farrakhan down in the section below. But again, that's all I got for y'all today. My name is Sensei Rip. Till next time, peace. Salute world, I need y'all to do me a favor right quick and tap into the homie Grand Finale's latest video titled Sidelines. Okay, the full video is available on his YouTube channel. However, I'm about to bless y'all with a quick teaser. Okay, if you like what you hear, make sure to head on over to his channel and leave a comment. All right, and make sure to tell him that Rip sent you. Okay, run them numbers up. All right, y'all, I'm out. Peace.
Upon the world before you dearly depart.
Let the world go by. Let the world go by, and it'll all be just fine.
Thank you for watching my video. If you like what you see, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And also, hit that notification bell to get the latest on hip-hop, sports, comedy, whatever. All right, we got you covered over here at Forgotten Kings TV. And also, click on one of these videos, okay? All right, y'all.